What is going on, everybody? This is Drew Coates Sports Talk. I am Cody Johnson. I am joined by my handsome host, Andrew Wright, sitting over there. It looks like in his kitchen, right in front of his Christmas tree, which he has yet to take down. But that is because we are
Not even New Year's yet, bro. Not even New Year's yet.
No excuses. See, and also, I'm going to give you a pro tip, Drew. If you don't put up a Christmas tree, you don't have one to take down, which is what we did this year, basically, because we didn't put up our tree. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining with us. This is the last Drew Code episode of 2024, and we are steamrolling to 2025. Drew, I can't believe, man, this year's already over. The new year is about to start in about, I don't know, a day and a half, 24 hours from now. And it seems like 2024 just came and went. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what's frustrating, and I know what you're gonna do right now. You're gonna be like, "Oh my God, cry me a freaking river!" But it was frustrating because us people who work in schools, the the break it like came right on the week of Christmas. So last year we had like a full week where we can prepare, get things ready, last minute stuff, not feel rushed. This year it felt super rushed. And you know that my wife's family, my in-laws, we usually make tamales, we make menudo, we make a ton of Christmas cookies, all this stuff. So we just felt really rushed. So we actually didn't make tamales this year. Barely got the menudo. But we made time for the cookies. We did like 3 days worth of cookies, which was actually really nice. Usually we're only doing it in like 1 day, maybe two. And this time we were like, well, you know what? Let's take our time. Let's make them, let's make them a little bit, not as like time crunching type of a thing, and we won't make as much. And it worked out really well because no one was stressed, which was great. So, well, I shouldn't say no one, but it was nice nonetheless. So,
oh, that's good. Yeah. Before we get started, I'm going to remind everybody to subscribe to the show, subscribe on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to us on the podcast platforms you're listening on, and on social media. And did you guys do anything else besides? I think you guys had a huge like sibling Christmas get together with your siblings specifically. Is that right?
Yeah. So it was. Sorry, my son is trying to get a cookie right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do. So since my parents ended up, they moved to Oklahoma. My dad and my stepmom, they moved to Oklahoma, and at the time, we were thinking maybe we're probably not going to get together. We're not going to see our step siblings anymore because we weren't going to do these like family get-togethers. Because as we've all gotten older, it's harder and harder to get together. We used to get together like once a month, and then it kind of became like just birthdays and just holidays, and then it was just holidays and. Stuff like that. And so we were kind of like, oh, maybe we won't see them anymore. It's just going to be kind of sad. But we did end up coming up with the idea of let's all get together. We don't need to do gifts because we're already, people are already hurting for money as it is. So let's just have a day where we get together. We'll have some food. The kids get to hang out. We can hang out and just have fun. And we've done it for 3 years now. 3 years or 2 years? I don't know. We've done it a few times now. Last year we did it over here. This year, my sister Amber, she ended up moving, so we all did it at her new place. So it's a fun time. Every time we get together with everyone, we always have a good time. We always come up with a new catchphrase or things that everyone starts laughing at, and we just keep going with it. So it was a really fun time. We enjoy it. So it was great.
That's awesome, man. Do you guys have anything planned to bring in the new year?
No, I'm going to sit on my butt, and I will probably play poker.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably about it.
Yeah, I did some of that on Christmas Eve with my cousins and my relatives I haven't seen in a while. And you'd be
Okay.
proud, Drew. I was running the table for a minute, and then
I was when you were telling me that. I was super proud.
More people joined, and then of course my odds like lessened as more cards are distributed and stuff. So, but for a hot minute, man, there was 4 of us playing, and it was Texas Hold'em, and I didn't know what I was. I mean, I know how to play Texas Hold'em, but in terms of betting, I was just kind of like having fun and throwing, chips out there, and just wanted to just keep going. And then I guess everyone else thought that was me being aggressive, or I was bluffing a lot of people, and I was just being honest. Like, I just wanted to keep playing this hand, you guys. I just didn't want to fold and watch it. I wanted to join the fun, and I'd throw 25 cents or 50 cents in because we only had a $20 pay in, and people would fold, and I'm like, it's just a quarter, you guys, just throw one in there. And then before you know it, we would have some hands that got pretty high, and I'd bet a little bit more. And then, a cousin would flip over. I got 2 of a kind, like, okay. Or I got 2 pairs, excuse me. And then I'd be like, oh, you know what? I got a straight here. And then, so I'd lay it down, and man, you would have been proud, but also you'd have laughed at me because I was the first one to go all in, and I lost it all because I'd been at that table for like 3 hours, and I was like, okay, I think I'm done playing. I just don't know how to get out of it. But I put my chips in, and I had pocket kings, and then that's
a good hand.
Yeah. And then my cousin Chris, he came in with pocket aces and took the pot. And I think it cleared us all out, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I was like, oh, at least I can get some money on this one.
Nah. Yeah, I know. I gotta talk to my father-in-law and see if we can get just a poker day during probably next week sometime, or even this week. Because I know Grandpa will love it. I'll love it, and I know you want to play. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
What about you guys? Are you guys doing anything for New Year's?
You know what? Probably not. I know that my wife and her friend right now are going through a movie marathon. They're trying to get through the Harry Potter series, and that's like a week's worth of movies. So I suggested Star Wars. I was overruled, which it's the same damn thing. I mean,
it's funny that you say Star Wars because I've been on a Star Wars kick.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but my TikTok has been coming up where it's like people are like, this is the correct way to watch the Star Wars in order, in chronological order. And I was like, I had like 3 or 4 TikToks in one day that came up with, and I was like, this is a sign. I have to watch them.
Your FBI agent really wants you to catch up on your Star Wars.
Yeah. So I watched the Acolyte, which it was all right. It wasn't that great. I understand why the super Star Wars nerds are really upset about it, and I understand why people are like, it wasn't that bad, like, calm down. So I can see both sides of it, but to me it was just kind of like, meh. That's what I told my wife. I was like, I mean, hopefully I was hoping they would get another season, just because that way maybe they would describe a little bit more, because it felt like this was more of a setup season, and a lot of people just didn't like it at all, because you're just kind of like thrown into this, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And they really never truly explain it. And so that's why you're kind of like, all right, that was cool, I guess. I don't know what I watched.
Right.
But yeah, so that was kind of, it was kind of a letdown. And then I ended up watching The Phantom Menace, and now I'm supposed to be watching Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
And I was going to wait for Jessica, because she was like, you know what? I don't remember that one that much. Can I watch that one with you? And I was like, yeah. And so like every day this week, I was like, hey, let's watch Attack of the Clones. And she's like, no. And I was like, it's been like 3-4 days. So now I'm like, you know what? I'm watching it without you.
So if your wife doesn't want to watch a show or a movie, like how long will you pester her to watch it before you kind of give up? Like,
now about 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
So I've learned with Abby is, if I really want her to watch something, I don't go beg, hey, we really need to watch this. Let's sit down and watch it. What I've learned is I just mention it. I don't say anything else outside of that. And then we're laying in bed. She's on TikTok, and then I just put it on the TV and I watch. And then she goes, what are you watching? I was like, oh, I'm watching a show. And I know she's gonna be entertained by it if I just let it sit. And then she goes, what? And then kind of like those TikToks where like the guy's watching the girl's show, and then they get into it, and then okay, we got to rewatch it. I kind of play it the same way, because if you push her to watch it, she'll refuse. But you just like, I'm just going to watch it. You can either watch it or not watch it. Then she's almost more intrigued. Like, well, wait, what happened here? And I was like, well, do you want to rewatch it? We can just totally rewatch this thing. that sometimes works, but that's
Yeah,
what I have to do
I
lately.
have to just put it on. No, I already know it, but I've been trying to be nice because I've been playing a lot of video games since on break. Like whenever I get a little bit of time, I'm like, I'm gonna throw this on real quick.
Oh yeah, with your new
all right.
PS5, huh?
Yeah. Well, I only have one game, so I'm really focused.
Guess who got a PS5 for Christmas this year?
Oh, Han?
Yeah, his girlfriend got him one for Christmas. Oof. I know. Tell me about it.
Ooh, he didn't deserve that.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Like, man, you
Sorry,
really outkicked your coverage on that one. But anyway, so his girlfriend got it for him, so now he doesn't have any use for the PS4. So I've set it up in on my office desk now, so it's on my monitor. So the last few days I've been playing Madden, but I only have 21. I don't have any of the newer Maddens because I'm cheap. And so, anyways, I've been trying to.
I'm gonna get the new Madden. I'm probably gonna buy it in the next couple of days because.
Well, I wanted to I
have college football. So
I wanted to get Madden 25, or I wanted to get college football 25 because I think you have that one, right?
I have college football. Yeah.
Okay, I was debating about getting that one. Here's what's tough, though. This is why I find what's tough with video games is. Good. Yeah, of course. Some of the games that are really good like require a lot of time to be sitting there and like go through it. And I get in this thing where like over a weekend, I may be able to sit and do it, but then like I have to go back to regular, programming, and then I don't have time to do it anymore, and I forget all about it. And I was like,
so
I'll
if
get to it later.
Want, I will say this. I'm with you. Sometimes it's hard to take that. Like I have a dynasty team. I don't really play it that much because it's a lot of time. It's a lot of like you got to do the recruiting and which it again, it's a video game, so they make it quick. It's a quick thing. But what I like to do is I like to do the road to glory, which is you make your one player and you play that one position. And so then they fast forward everything else that you're not in. I mean, I think you can make the settings where you play everything.
Sure.
But I like to just play the one position and it makes the games go quick. Now, if you're a quarterback, it takes a little longer, but like right now I've been really into I made a running back. Oh, okay. And it's been really cool. I actually really dig it because it's like automatically your quarterback is like locked in on you. So as soon as you call for the ball, he throws it right to you. Okay. So and I just like I'm racking up the running yards and the receiving yards and the receptions and the touchdowns. So yeah, that's fun. It's a fun game. And honestly, it goes by quick. I could probably play like 3 games in an hour.
Sure. Like, and I don't think it's the whole like playing games over like an hour period that's the tough part. It's the whole like building the character, then getting it stronger. Like, for example, when you and I used to play 2K a little bit more often when we had the ability to, we'd go hit these courts. And obviously these guys that are at level like 95 or whatever, they had to put hours and hours and hours. Yeah. And I just see that and I go, there's no way.
Yeah.
Like I'm struggling.
I'm with you. I hate that too.
I'm struggling to find 2 hours just to sit and play that much. And I couldn't imagine devoting 6 hours to sitting there. Not that if you do that, that's bad. It's just, it's in my schedule. I just don't have it,
So at least for me with the college football thing, I really don't play online. I just kind of play the road to glory, which is you just play against the computer and they auto do the schedule and all that. So all you have to worry about is your player and you just play. And like, you don't like the practices, you don't even have to do. I mean, you can do, it just earns you coach trust, which means like once you get like a lot of coach trust, they call a lot of plays for you. And so that's really the only time consuming thing. And honestly, you can like, there's one where it's like the jump cut drill, which is like probably a 30-second drill. Like you're done quick. Yeah. So it's not bad. And then like you have this weekly agenda and then you add, you got to like take some time to study, which you just throw a point on there and it automatically gives you a few points for the study and you get a few points for like training, So yeah, so it's quick. You're really not spending that much time. So if you're worried about that, honestly, this game would probably work better for you than like 2K.
Okay. Well, I'll have to give it a shot then whenever I get a chance to.
Well, on PS5 too, if Han has PlayStation Plus, you can do a game trial.
Oh,
and you can try it. You can do that way.
I'd rather just buy it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was just trying to save you money if you weren't sure, but whatever.
Well, that's when you go to GameStop and you go and rummage the used section, and then that's when you find, a Madden 3 years old, and you can get it for like $5. So
you find Madden 21.
Well, I think I remember texting you one time when I was finally playing PS4. This is like years ago. This is like pandemic time, and I remember like one of the first Madden games I bought was Madden 17 because I didn't want to spend $50 on the latest one. Yeah. And so like I spent $6 on this Madden 17. You're like, I think I have that one, but I don't know. And then I was
it's been 5 years.
Yeah. And then I think we were playing around with 2K 2020, I think. And then I only bought it online. And then this is the thing that drives me nuts about PS, the system now, is if you buy it online, you have to keep up with your membership, like your year membership, in order to play it. And I'm like, well, no, I bought it, so I own it, so I should play it whenever I want.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's the part I hate.
Now, this is probably me with my black socks on my lawn, get off of it kind of a thing. But like, if I bought it, I own it. So whether it's offline or online, I'm playing my game because I bought it. So I kind of feel like it's ridiculous that I have to keep up with this yearly subscription to play a game that I bought. So I think that's the only thing.
Yeah. Well, that's how it was with 2K. Yeah. I forgot which one it was. And
I think it was the Anthony Davis one, 2020.
Yeah, it was it was a couple of years after. And I was like, I still had the membership, but then it wouldn't let me play the My Player because it was like, oh, you got to buy the new upgraded version. I was like, no, that's just stupid.
Where's my player? Give me my player.
So yes, I'm kind of where's my get off my lawn type guy when it comes to that, because I'm like, if I'm gonna buy the game, I'd rather buy the actual physical copy,
right?
Because I don't want that to happen.
That was my
really pissed me off.
That was my whole point of like, I'd rather have the physical disc, because I remember growing up, if you wanted to go over somebody's house to play, you brought the disc with you, and it's cool to like be able to play it online or whatever if you don't have the disc, but there's something about having that physical copy to know I can play it whenever I want. I ain't gotta worry about no Wi-Fi or none of the other factors. I don't know. There's something about I need to have that disc.
Yeah.
For me, so that way I can play it whenever I want, whether or not it's updated or not. I'm putting in that disc and I can play it whenever I want. I don't have to rely on like, oh, it's not capable for the latest update now because it's too old. Like, the hell with that. Where's my disc? Put that in. Yeah. We can play it right now.
Yeah.
So
I don't have a job where they up the minimum wage to $20. Sorry, I can't afford the online games constantly and buying the upgrades.
Yeah, I can't.
Whatever. Sorry, I'm not doing that.
I don't either. This is where you and I probably relate, because it's like, I'm not doing that. Like, just give me the game. So. Yeah. All right, man, let's jump into it. We've gone 20 minutes on this. Yeah, we just did it up impromptu.
You know what? Screw that. We haven't hung out in a while, okay?
Yeah, dude. That's what know how long it's been since we hung out? I don't even think it was Thanksgiving yet.
Well, since your daughter's birthday, but it wasn't really hanging out.
Well, do we count that, though? Because,
no.
Yeah. See, we need Baytime. We need I was going to now tell you, hey, I've been looking for your Stingers Up episodes and you must be busy, and then I was going to throw out there and then I was going to throw out there like, oh, maybe we can kickstart 2 bays in a pod. Shoot, ain't no way.
Unless you'll let me do it while I drive.
I mean, at this point, that's how you do Stingers Up, but you owe Stingers Up a couple of episodes, so
that's all right. They'll get over it.
All right, Drew, let's jump into some NFL playoff hunt right now. These notes are like harshly thrown together, I will say, and all credit to you for getting them ready to go, because I certainly was no help on this preparation. But in the AFC, we've got some close battles happening right now. I think the seventh and final seeding is up for grabs right now, and we've got either Miami, the Denver Broncos, or we have the Cincinnati Bengals, who have come back to life. By the way, they were nowhere to be found, and then all of a sudden they're storming their way back, and they're at a 500 record right now. So, with that being said, Drew, who do you see capturing this seventh and final seed of the AFC?
This is what's hard, is because if Denver wins, they're automatically in.
Right.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Denver's in. The only thing is they're playing Kansas City, so that's a tough matchup. But Kansas City has clinched home field advantage. They've clinched, first round bye, all that jazz. So for them, there's not much to play with or play for, other than to make a division rival not get into the playoff. And I think that's what's going to make this game hard. Is Kansas City really only has one motivation, and that's to keep Denver out. If the first quarter is not going the way that Kansas City wants them to go, or even like first quarter and halfway through the second quarter, I have a feeling like going into halftime, they're just going to shut everything down. And they're going to be like, you know what, let's just get everyone healthy and move on. So if Denver comes out super hot and just right away on fire, then I can see them automatically getting in, no question. But I, as you know, obviously as a Raider fan, I don't want to see Denver going in. So I'd rather see, personally, I would like to see Cincinnati, even though their defense is terrible. And Joe Burrow has to basically throw for 5 touchdowns for Cincinnati to even have a chance to win, which is like crazy in itself. But, I really don't want to see Miami, because all we're going to hear about is Tua and, should he have come back, or maybe he shouldn't have, like the season wasn't the greatest for them. It's just going to be that talk the whole time. And I don't want to hear that. And then the whole Tyreek Hill thing in week 1 where he got arrested, maybe this derailed this. I don't want to hear that crap. I really don't. I just want to watch football. And I know some people like the storylines. Some people gravitate in the NFL because of the storylines, and that's fine. But for me personally, I would rather see Cincinnati for 2 reasons, of course. First reason is I feel like Joe Burrow has gotten the short end of the stick on the Cincinnati team. The Cincinnati Bengals are one of the cheapest organizations in the NFL. They do not spend money. And that's why the talk is T. Higgins is not going to be there next year. Like, it's almost a foregone conclusion, which is wild, because he's such a pivotal part of this offense. Them not re-signing Joe Mixon was crazy. Now, it looks to be okay because Chase Brown is having a really good year. He's been doing really well for the Bengals, so, bright spot there. But, Jamar Chase, it was almost like they may not even pay Jamar Chase, who's arguably one of their best receivers they've had in this organization already.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know. And you talk about an organization who had Chad Ochocinco, T.J. Houshmandzadeh, who was
AJ Green.
One of the good. Yeah, A.J. Green was one of the better receivers. So you get guys like that, and you put Jamar Chase in there, I think you absolutely would, because Jamar Chase is such a dynamic player. So I would rather see guys like that. Joe Burrow, he's still in his prime. He's really good, and he seems to be getting better. Jamar Chase, he kind of struggled towards the beginning, but he started picking it up, and he's ramping it up big time. T. Higgins had a heck of a game this week. And like I said, Chase Brown's been having a good year. It's really the defense that's now holding them down. And that's why they're in the hole that they are. Joe Burrow wasn't great the first 3-4 weeks, I believe, but then started going back to Joe Burrow. So it's just one of those things that I want to see good players in the playoff, in my opinion. And I think Cincinnati, I know everyone wants to say, well, look at Miami, they got all these players, but they've had a lot of turmoil, and I'm just kind of done with them. I'd rather see Cincinnati. And I like seeing these small market teams make it, like the Detroit Lions, albeit I'm not sure I would say they're a small market team, but they've been a team that have struggled for years and years. So to see them being a really good team, I really love seeing that, and I want to continue to see that. So Cincinnati, to me, is one of those teams. So I'm really hoping Cincinnati, but Cincinnati has so much going against them. They have to obviously win, but need Denver to lose and Miami to lose and or tie. So out of the 3 scenarios between Denver, Cincinnati, and Miami, Cincinnati has the hardest. Denver has the easiest. Miami does have a chance if they win and Denver loses.
Yeah. So here's the thing too, is I I really agree with that take on this is for me, I'd rather see the Bengals in, but I ultimately think that the easiest road, of course, is going to be Denver. I mean, they need to just win and beat a Chiefs team that is probably going to rest their starters, and there is no need for them to really play since they've clinched a first round bye. Patrick Mahomes is probably going to set because I think him and his wife Brittany are preparing for the birth of another child, and he promised her that he would be there for it. And here's the thing about the Bengals is it's almost like they're now trying to make up for the ground that they lost earlier in this year, because several of these losses, like to the Chiefs, the Commanders, you have some losses to the Ravens, 2 losses against the Ravens. All of those losses were by less than a field goal, or excuse me, the Commanders one was 5 points, but relatively all those other losses were by less than a touchdown. And unfortunately, it is because of that defense. And so here's why what's difficult is they're trying to play catch up for something that their defense kind of put them in a situation, because Joe Burrow, majority of this year, has been playing at an elite level, like over 4,000 passing yards, 40 touchdowns, I think 6 interceptions all season. Like, statistically speaking, he would be in the MVP race. However, his record, because of his defense, is holding it back. And they've got probably the most electric offense in the NFL at the moment, just because of how well that they play. But I think kind of like what we were talking about, the Broncos have the easiest path. All they need to do is win and they get in. That's it. And the Chiefs are probably not going to put the starters out. So the Broncos are going to have an easier path to get in. The Dolphins, to me, when they basically took Tua out, are signaling to me that they're waving the white flag. I think they played the Browns, who started a quarterback that was in over his head. So that turned into what it looked like. But I ultimately think that the Dolphins are not a playoff caliber team. They need so much to go for them in order for them to make the playoffs that it's not going to happen. I don't know who their next game is going to be against, but I don't foresee them winning that game. I think the Bengals going up against Steelers have a pretty good shot to beat a divisional opponent. But for the most part, though, it's the Broncos, in my opinion, are probably going to get in just because they have the path of least resistance going into it, and they hold all the cards. All they need to do is win. That's it. And then So I would say in the AFC, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. It's probably going to be the Broncos, but it would be so cool to see the Bengals get in just because of all that they went through this season. But if Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they can't get into the playoffs, this whole Bengals organization, top to bottom, needs to figure out what they're going to do in the future, because you got T. Higgins on a franchise tag that you probably aren't going to re-sign. Jamar Chase, you got to pay him. He so outplayed his rookie deal that you need to pay him more than what he probably would have gotten this season. And we're talking higher numbers than probably Justin Jefferson, because he got a super big contract. You're gonna have to pay Chase a lot more than that. And Joe Burrow, he's in his prime right now. He's playing like a top 3 quarterback right now, and it's wasted. He's not even going to get in the playoffs because of that defense that they had. And I don't think it's because of Zach Taylor that they've turned the ship around, so to speak, and they've gone on this winning streak. I just think that they're uber talented, and that's why they're able to win these games. So I think in the AFC, we're just basically waiting for Denver to win to get in, and then we're putting this all to bed. But man, it would be really cool if the Bengals pull it out. And I did mention, Drew, and I'm curious, like, if Joe Burrow and the Bengals find their way in the postseason with the statistics that Joe Burrow has, do you think he deserves to kind of be in the discussion for MVP a little bit? I kind of think so.
Yeah, I think he should be in the discussion. I wouldn't pick him to win.
Yeah.
I think it's been Josh Allen. I was on here saying Saquon Barkley for the most part. He's been great, but what Josh Allen has done the last couple of weeks versus what Saquon Barkley has done the last couple of weeks, and I know it's recency bias, but Josh Allen has been great all year long. So is Saquon Barkley, but Barkley has done good. I don't think great, in my opinion, and Josh Allen has. You can't just look at the numbers. You have to look at what he's doing.
Mhm.
And Josh Allen, I mean, he would probably still be the favorite, but I do think Joe Burrow should absolutely be in the discussion. Even if he's not in the playoffs, I still think he should be, because we're not talking about an award that you get because your team is winning. It's, I mean, strictly who's the best player in the league this year. And I think you have an absolute good point for Joe Burrow, whether they get in or not. I think absolutely. Yeah. Now, if Joe Burrow was like 3-14 or 3-14. Yeah, of course you're not going to have him do it, but just the fact that they're 8-8 now is crazy.
Yeah. I think too, like if there's a power rankings, like let's just say top 4 MVP candidates, I think number 4 would probably be Joe Burrow. Like he's the bottom of that list. Then you would probably go Lamar at 3, Barkley at 2, Allen at 1. Statistically speaking, though, like maybe a couple of changes statistically, but if we're just looking at team for team, there's no doubt Josh Allen has done enough to win it, and it's probably his award. And maybe an argument for Lamar just because of how well he's been playing, and he's arguably playing better than the season he won the MVP on. But if there was a top 4, definitely those 4 are in contention. And I think the fact that Joe Burrow has pulled this team from oblivion essentially and have gotten them to this point, like it does deserve some sort of at least conversation to say, man, this is like one of the seasons where like a miracle can happen because this quarterback has willed this team to get into, the playoffs. Granted, a lot has had to fall their way as well, but it does go to show like how great that he is to like really lift up the team. So,
yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
So moving on to the NFC, of course, this is what everyone assumed was going to happen at the start of the season, where the Buccaneers and Falcons were basically going to be fighting for basically whoever wins gets in, and then that's that. So I'm curious, and I even made this point that I don't know if the Falcons are going to get in, but I'm curious, Drew, who do you think has the better shot? Who do you foresee getting in and clinching that last NFC spot? Is it the Bucs or is it the Falcons?
The Falcons have the Buccaneers, have the easier route, and that's if they win, they're in. So it's like Denver. They win, they're in, and they're playing New Orleans. New Orleans is not going to play Derek Carr. They're not going to throw him out there. There's no point in it. So it's probably going to be Spencer Rattler again. And I saw a tweet, and I know I shouldn't make fun of my own fan base, but anyway, I saw a tweet on Twitter where it was a Raider fan saying like, and we have this, practice squad linebacker that we drafted still on the practice squad, and where we could have had Spencer Rattler. And I'm like, bro, I don't think I'd rather have Spencer Rattler than Aiden O'Connell. And that's not saying much. I'd rather have Gardner Minshew than Spencer Rattler, if I'm being honest. So come on, dude. Read the room a little bit. Don't be that guy because he's on an active roster and this other guy is on the practice squad.
Which, by the way,
on the team.
By the way, has nothing to do with Spencer Rattler at all. Just a player that the Raiders probably needed in terms of position and depth.
Exactly.
Has nothing to do with quarterback situation because there are other free agent quarterbacks that were out there, and it has nothing to do with Spencer Rattler. There's a reason why Spencer Rattler fell, I think, to the 6th round, I think is when he was finally selected. And he's playing like a 6th round quarterback. He's not the savior. No. I think it's people hear that name and they're like, oh, look at what he's doing. Yeah, he's losing games in New Orleans. He's not doing that much.
And a lot of people wanted to be like, well, it's Derek Carr. And it's like, well, the backups aren't doing much either. So maybe it's the team. But anyway.
The whole team.
So I think the Buccaneers pretty much have this one in the bag. I really don't see them struggling against New Orleans unless for some reason New Orleans wants to throw out Derek Carr. That's really the only way I would see the Saints winning. And even then, I still don't think so. I think New Orleans, like we are saying right now, I don't think it's just necessarily the quarterback position. I think it's other positions as well that they need help at. as much as I want to see the Falcons in there, because it would just be so funny to see the media just go, should they start Michael Penix or should they start Kirk Cousins? I mean, Kirk Cousins was majority in all year, and then they throw in Michael Penix Jr. for a couple of, 3 weeks, and, they're still kind of the same or what, I just want to see that. But anyway, I think it's a great story for the Buccaneers, because a lot of people did pick against the Buccaneers this year. They said Mike Evans is starting to get washed, which he's been really good this year. Chris Godwin hasn't been great, but he's been injured. I'm sorry, he was injured.
He was
He got injured
like a few weeks ago. So yeah.
But Jalen McMillan from Fresno, by the way, from
Really
St.
good.
Joaquin Memorial. Anyway, he's come up and he's done pretty well. And then, like I said, Baker Mayfield, and then they have this Bucky Irving running back who's been superior to Rachaad White, which sucks because I put a lot of shares in Rachaad White because I was like, oh, the Buccaneers, I feel like they were going to be good this year. And I was right, just not with Rachaad White. But anyway, and that Buccaneers defense, and this is what drove me nuts, is when people were talking about the Buccaneers and they were saying, they're not going to be very good. Their defense isn't really good. And I go, oh, if there's one thing that the head coach of the Buccaneers has proven time and time and time and time again, is that he is a really good defensive coach. The defensive side of the ball, when he was with the Jets as the head coach, when he's been with the Buccaneers, the one thing you can say is the defenses were always superior. They were always better than what they should have been. As soon as he left, that Jets defense got worse. As soon as he became the head coach, the Buccaneers defense lost a lot of name guys, but they're still pretty darn good. So that is one thing that I think he needs to get credit for, is the defense that he has coached up has been very, very good. Now, they're not this perfect team. They're not going to beat probably majority of these NFC teams, if I'm being honest. I could see them pull out a win over like a Packers team or a Vikings team. I could see that. Or even the Commanders. But the Buccaneers, they still need a lot, yet they're this good. And they're not even like this grand team, but they're good. And they deserve to be in the playoffs. That's the one thing. I've never been a huge Baker Mayfield fan, but what I can say is he's the perfect quarterback for this organization. After Tom Brady left, he was the right guy. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but when Baker, you know what? I will say this: when Baker Mayfield finally got humbled, when he went from Cleveland to the Rams to the Buccaneers, and to the Panthers, and then to the Buccaneers, he got humbled after all these moves. And I think he's just been like, you know what? I'm just going to work. And then, obviously he's the quarterback. He's got to talk. So he probably was like, well, I'll talk when I have to. But other than that, I'm just going to focus on what we're doing over here. And since he's been doing that, he has been a really, really good quarterback. No question in my mind. And I think the Buccaneers deserve to be in the playoff.
I would agree. I think what we need to watch out for is Buccaneers have the easier road because of the Saints. But again, divisional opponent, for some reason, don't know how or why, it could flip on its head, because if you don't respect the team you're playing, just like the Falcons, I think should be on upset alert. Because right now, according to ESPN right now, the Falcons are favored in Atlanta at 8.5 against Carolina.
What?
Yes. I want to say, if I was the Falcons, I would take a step back and really take the Carolina Panthers seriously, because they are not week one, the Carolina Panthers.
Bryce Young is playing really well.
He's playing really well. And now that Adam Thielen's kind of in the mix, you have Xavier Largent in there. That is a scary team. If they can get another year of improvement, they actually might be a little bit of a sleeper team in this division. But don't sleep on the Carolina Panthers because they'll take it to you. And this is, again, a divisional opponent. We're playing in a dome, so there's no weather affecting anything. And I think the Falcons should maybe be on upset alert a little bit on this game, because this is the type of game I can see the Falcons falling asleep at. And then this is costing them to not get in the playoffs. And the Buccaneers will probably take care of business because Buccaneers have done that all year. They take care of when they need to.
They're winning the games that they should win, and they're losing the games they should be losing.
And the Falcons, and I said this on the last few Drew Codes, that the Falcons are outsmarting themselves. They're playing too cute. They're thinking like, oh, let's switch up quarterback 3 weeks to go in the season while we're in a dead heat of the playoff run with a rookie quarterback that has not had more than a handful of snaps of regular football, not even preseason, regular season football. And we think that's going to work. And their biggest test was against the Commanders, and they lost to a playoff caliber team. That's exactly what's going to happen if they get into the playoffs. But that's going to happen if the Buccaneers don't take care of business. Buccaneers right now in Tampa are favored at 13 points against the Saints. And I feel like that's a conservative number. But
that's still a big number.
It is a big number, but
that's a real big number.
When the Raiders can beat you by 15, I think that's a conservative number. But my point being,
O'Connell, the truth.
Aiden O'Connell looking like Tom Brady back there, number 12, and the way he was poised. Yeah. Who needs to draft a quarterback? We got AOC. But anyways,
Please don't say that.
Yeah, I'm just going to wrap this up by saying, I think Atlanta they were cooked 5 weeks ago. I don't see how they kind of get over this. And I think it's because, again, they tried to get cute by signing Kirk Cousins off of an Achilles injury, then drafting their franchise guy. And then the way that they're kind of blending it together is really strange to me. So I don't think that they're going to get in because they're not ready yet. The Buccaneers, though, with all the injuries and having, all these other players are making an impact. And I think they're a team that could make some noise in the NFC, and I think that they're going to clinch the last spot. They are also one of the few teams this season that has beaten the Detroit Lions. So don't sleep on the Buccaneers. They will get you if you fall asleep at the wheel. So I think we're both in agreement that Tampa Bay is probably the team that will solidify a playoff spot because we trust them far more than the Falcons.
Yeah. There's nothing else to say. I'm with you. And I didn't realize how big those spreads were. That's kind of insane.
We got some crazy spreads. I mean, we have 13. Here's the funny thing. Okay, we're going to go on a tangent before we go on the Raiders. Tampa Bay has a 13-point spread against the New Orleans Saints, right?
I would probably take the Saints to lose, but cover.
To cover. Okay, sure. We'll take that. And I'll even buy that for $1. That's fine. But then we have the line with the New York Giants at Philadelphia. It's the last game of the season. Guess what the spread is? Go ahead. Take a guess.
Okay. You at least have to give me as a double digit or as a single digit.
Well, I don't want to give away the answer.
Okay. Single digit, I'm going to guess then.
Okay.
And I'm going to say 2.5.
3 points. That's the spread. That's pretty damn close. But I think that's crazy is we have Tampa going to win by 13, but we have the Giants that are only going to lose by 3.
Well, I think the thought is that Philadelphia may rest. And if they do, then Giants obviously have a real good chance of winning. Which, if I'm the Eagles, I know they want to give Barkley the record.
Yeah.
And I think you should give him the record, but also sit everyone else. And let the Giants win because not only do you hurt their draft order, which would be just so funny, but also you can still say Barkley got the record on him.
Well, actually, I think if the Eagles, this is what's tough. I think they're in contention to get one of the 2 bye weeks, right? Or is it 1 bye week or 2 bye weeks?
One bye.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if they want to lose then, because let's say Detroit doesn't win one of their next games and they may, I think they would tie, for one of the bye weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check. Oh, no, never mind. The Eagles lost to the Commanders.
It's Lions and Vikings. Yeah, Lions and Vikings are the ones who are going for it.
Wow,
basically.
I didn't realize the Vikings took the divisional lead. That's crazy. Yeah, Philadelphia. Man, that's crazy. I think that's an underwhelming line, but whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get to the team that we love and have great. Yeah. And especially the last 2 weeks. Now, don't get me wrong. I love to see the Raiders win, but this is, and funny enough, this is going to kind of tie into what we were talking about, especially when you were giving us the point of like a Raider guy on Twitter was complaining about some practice squad guy taking the spot of a maybe quarterback we probably could have drafted or didn't draft. And yet we have half of Raider Nation that's happy that we've got a 2-game winning streak going on and are completely sinking the Titanic of our draft pick to basically get into a position where we don't have a franchise quarterback in our midst like what we had last year. And then you have Raider Nation, and I think we're kind of on that side of Raider Nation where we love them, but we need a franchise guy to turn this thing around. So you kind of need the best draft pick you can get, especially the quarterbacks in this pool that's coming out is not nearly as good as it was last year. So you definitely need to get a high draft pick. All this winning looks great, but it's not going to do us any good come the draft. So do you think we should have just tanked this whole season, or what are you feeling? What are you thinking, Drew?
I think we should have tanked. And I know a lot of people, a lot of Raider fans are upset that there are Raider fans who want to do that. My thought is this. The reason I wanted to tank is first, we only had 2 wins at the time. We had a chance at the number 1 pick. The number 1 pick. You don't get those often. And I know as Raider fans, we've seen us in the top 5 way too many times and butcher it. But I think what we can say and already know that we're right on this is that Tom Telesco knows how to handle the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So these same people are like, I want to see the Raiders win. I want to see them do well. Yeah, so do we. That's why we want them to tank. And I think it's the mindset of, well, I don't want to be a loser. I don't want to just be okay with losing. We're not. We're not okay with losing. But we're in a situation that we can now better our team by being the number 1 pick. We could literally pick anybody we want. Anybody. We don't have to pick just, who's the best available, like we did with Brock Bowers. And a lot of people argue that we should have went after a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone was saying they need a quarterback here. Even you and I, we were saying, we need a quarterback here. We need a quarterback here. Why would we get Brock Bowers? He's good. No question. I don't think he's going to be the complete answer, but he will definitely help, right? You know what? He was by far the best football player on the Raiders this year, in my opinion, by far. I love Max Crosby. I think Brock Bowers had a better year than Max Crosby. Obviously, Crosby struggling with some injuries here and there. That obviously kind of plays a role in it. But for me, Tom Telesco, just with that pick, that 1 pick, tells me he knows what he's doing. Why just the 1 pick? Because you look at his track record in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Look at all the hits. Look at all the good picks he's gotten. Not just first round. Mm-hmm. Not just second round. Not even third round picks. He knows what he's doing in the draft. He's proven it. The guard that we got from Oregon has been great. What's Jackson Powers? Mm-hmm. That guy's been really good. I mean, he's gonna be our guard for as long as we want him to.
And he's played center, good. And other than the snap that he botched, I mean, he's played pretty well for majority of the season.
He's been a good pick. And so Tom Telesco has proven to you Raider fans who are against losing that he can do it in the draft. So why do us Raider fans who are rooting for a tank, why do we want this so bad? Because we finally have a GM again who knows what the hell he's doing. So it's not the fact that we think that Shedeur Sanders is going to be the next Tom Brady. It's not the fact that we think Shedeur Sanders is going to be Lamar Jackson. It's not the fact that we think Shedeur Sanders is even going to be Baker Mayfield. What we're saying is Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in this draft. And what we're also saying is we know that Shedeur Sanders is not going to be Jamarcus Russell. And I think that is a big part of Raider Nation being afraid of taking a number one pick, because the last time we needed a quarterback at the number one pick, we got a guy who completely flopped. Shedeur Sanders has been growing up with Deion Sanders. Deion would never let him be lazy on film or in the weight room or in film or in just quarterback room in general. He is not going to let him do that. He is not going to let him fail. So we're not saying that Shedeur Sanders is the answer, but when you have a chance at the number one pick and you have a position that is in high demand every single draft, you have to go after the top guy. And that's Shedeur Sanders. Some people want to say Cam Ward. Fine. If you want to say Cam Ward, that's fine too. But let me tell you this. Our pick right now is 8, I believe. And Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are not going to be available at that point.
Nope.
That's why it's frustrating. Because we have a GM who now has proven, I know what I'm doing in the draft. We finally have a chance to get a good pick, to get a guy who's going to be a professional football quarterback. He is going to be. Maybe he's not the answer, but he's sure not going to be a problem. Because what I've seen from Shedeur Sanders coming from Jacksonville State, and then went to Colorado playing in the Pac-12, people are like, wow, this is going to be a big jump. You know, he's going in the Pac-12. He did really well. He was on a real bad team and played really well. And then you look at, okay, now they're going, what is it, the Big 12 now that they're in, I believe, where Texas and Oklahoma were at the point at some point.
Yeah.
And now they were even better this year and barely missed the college football playoff. And I know everyone wants to look at the last game and go, wow, he wasn't that great. He didn't play the best. But you know what? He's gotten better over these years. The progression is there. So why do you think he's projected at number one? It's not just pure talent. It's that he has done the work. He has gotten the progression that he needs, that you should be seeing from a young quarterback like that. And I'm sorry I went on this whole rant, but it's so frustrating that people want to say, oh, you don't want to see the Raiders succeed and blah, blah. Yes, I do. I want to see them succeed for years. And this is a time, the draft is the time where you can get really good players and you don't have to spend an arm and a leg for one single player. You literally get 7 players guaranteed in the draft every year. 7 players that are automatically going to be on your team. You're going to have to spend some money, yes, but it's not going to be like if we're like, oh, fine, we're not going to get Shedeur Sanders, we're going to go after Aaron Rodgers. How much do you think it's going to cost for Aaron Rodgers?
And how much playing time is left in that guy's body? He looked terrible against the Bills.
Exactly. So you're telling me you'd rather have that and just be like, well, I'm glad we won that. I'm glad we won those last 2 games last year because why? So we can say at least we weren't the worst team. I don't care. People can make fun of us all they want. We finally have a GM who knows what he's doing. Now, you could make the argument, well, now we have a GM who knows what he's doing. He should be able to draft however. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. And I'm going to trust him in this draft. But the fact of the matter is we need a quarterback. And as much as I like Dylan Gabriel, I think Jalen Milroe might be really good. I would probably go Dylan Gabriel over Jalen right now. But they're not guarantees. They're not guarantees. And to me, Shedeur Sanders is a guarantee that he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's not going to be looking like when Sam Darnold came out his rookie year. He's not going to be that. I don't think he's going to be like Jaden Daniels, but I think we can have a good quarterback. And if you have a good team around him, you put Brock Bowers with him, you get a running back in the draft or sign a free agent, he'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. That's why I wanted the Raiders to tank.
Mm-hmm. So here's what's going to be completely frustrating is we're a team that doesn't know, well, at least the fan base cannot even align with what we need. We all sat here and said, we need a quarterback. We're a quarterback away from being competitive. I think we all almost absolutely said that to start the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season. And it was more apparent. And now we get to the point where we lose 2 games, fall still within top 10, but out of the number 1 contention, to where the only 2 quarterbacks that you can almost say that like probably a surety in the NFL, Shedeur Sanders, who, by the way, his mentor is Tom Brady, who is a minority owner for the Raiders, and who Tom Brady has talked nothing but remarks about how well and mature he is. Deion Sanders has coached him the right way. Or you have Cam Ward, who, I mean, those that may like him, that's fine. But we're going to look back at Raider Nation after, we're the 8th pick, or I see a dumb scenario where the Chargers rest everybody because they've gotten themselves into the playoffs. And now we are playing their backups. We end up winning that game. And now we win 5 games out of the top 10. And then all offseason, when we can't draft a quarterback because we're not in a position to do so, we're going to be really upset that we didn't get a quarterback because we didn't have draft position. We had draft position when we were closer to number 1, but no, we wanted to win these games. And I get it. Like, NFL players are playing for pride and they're not playing for draft picks. AP said that. And unfortunately, that pride is going to get him probably booted out of Raider Nation, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I hate to say it, but there's more reports coming out that AP has probably not going to be the coach for us next year because of Tom Brady's hand in like finding the next quarterback and, trying to get this franchise back on track. Like, that's the reality of it, is we're going to end up paying a 3rd head coach to not coach the team. And we also won't have a quarterback to kind of like build around, even though we have a great weapon in Brock Bowers. So, like, yes, it sucks to lose. No doubt. It's terrible. There's no greater option than that. Like, it's not great. But just like what you said, Drew, unfortunately, we have to lose if we want to get the best option that's in the draft. I do trust Tom Telesco that he will find a player, quarterback, or other position that will work really well into the team. And I actually like to think that because of AP's coaching and structure, that's why a lot of these rookies progress. Because before we had AP, and I'll even say before we had McDaniels, when we would draft rookies, the big question is, how come we're not developing them? And it was about scouting. And for some reason, these players just never panned out. This season, these rookies panned out. And that's a combination between choosing the right players and coaching with the right coaches. So I'd like to think that this staff has actually done really well. If you get rid of all the injuries, you get rid of the fact that they didn't have a true number 1 quarterback and the drama that they had around Devontae Adams, this was actually a solid team. They just so happened to have a down year, and it sucks that it happened on AP's like first full coaching year, but all the rookies that they brought in actually were productive. Like, that's encouraging. We need now a player who's going to be the franchise, the face of the team, so that way we can get past the whole like, oh, we missed Derek Carr. Because if it's not like we need a quarterback, it's why did we get rid of Derek Carr? Like, that's the 2 arguments that I always hear, and all this other stuff. So for Raider Nation, like I was saying weeks and weeks ago, that the Raiders should just tank, completely go for it and tank, because we need to get the best possible draft position that we can get. I don't want to gamble with free agency because it doesn't sound like that's going to pay any dividends, because we're going to have to pay out the nose for either Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, whatever quarterback might be the hot name out there. We're going to have to pay a lot of money for him. If we draft a franchise quarterback, we have a 4-year rookie deal that we can now build around, which is how the good teams build a winning program. We don't do that, though, unless we unfortunately have to get to a bottom. so that way we can get on top. And I'll say this, the Bengals, the Bills, the Ravens, even the Chiefs at one point had to start at the bottom, and they built their way up. It took a long time, but all of those AFC perennial like playoff or Super Bowl caliber teams, they all started with a high draft pick because they weren't that great, and they progressed and progressed and progressed. And it takes time. Like, we're still not over Gruden. We're still not over McDaniels. We've got not even a full year under AP. We need time for this thing to develop, but you can't expect a Super Bowl with none of your pieces in place. So in order to get those pieces, we're going to be bad, pretty bad. Some Sundays we look like the worst team on the field. Yeah. Then you have a game like on Sunday where we look like the best team on the field against the Saints, making all the right play calls. Defense played really well. It's just the Raiders are going to have to struggle. We have to be comfortable with that because it's the only way we get out of the situation. Being a mid-level tier to where we're like 15th in the draft doesn't build you a team, unfortunately. It's just not how it works. And the fact that we don't just embrace that just means that, like, we just don't want to be laughed at, I think, is Raider Nation. They don't want to have the laughing stock of the league or fan base on them, but yet our own fan base are like just absolutely like obliterating one another for one wanting to have a franchise quarterback and the other one wanting to win because, oh, I don't want us to suck. I hate to tell you, but we suck. Like, we can either suck really well or we can suck terribly. Like, which one do you want? So that's what I would say. I think the Raiders ultimately, like, they need a high draft pick. I kind of don't want them to win against the Chargers, even though it's the Chargers. It's kind of like bragging rights. But at this point, like, I really need that higher draft pick. Even if we're in the top 5, I think it gives us an opportunity to even offer up that draft pick to go up and climb maybe 1 or 2 and help us build, because we have all this cap space that would even be better if we can just get a franchise quarterback under that cap number, and then we can build pieces around it. But there's not going to be any excitement if the fan base doesn't like kind of come together. And it's like, what are we to do as the Raiders? Like, nothing makes us happy is another thing too. It's just chaos this whole season. Yeah. And thankfully, you told everyone to bet the under on the line, and you're going to hit that. Even if they win tomorrow, they're under the 6-game window, so you would hit. So congratulations, Drew. Thanks for putting that on our radar.
Well, I didn't want to, but you know what? I did do the PFF mock draft, which now they only let you do 3 rounds for free. Now you're going to pay for the rest. But anyway, so currently they're 8th. So the first round specifically, the Patriots would have the number 1 pick. They get Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Then the Titans are number 2. They get Shedeur Sanders. This is just automated. I didn't do this.
Yeah.
3, the Browns get Cam Ward. The Giants get Abdul Carter, edge rusher from Penn State. Then the Jaguars get Michigan D lineman Mason Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Panthers get McMillan, the receiver from Arizona. And then the Jets get the safety from Georgia, Starks. And then the Raiders, I had them go get Ha-Seong Kim because I'm not going to reach for no other quarterback goes in the first round after Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
Even in a computer-generated thing. Usually they grab quarterbacks like nothing, and they didn't. So I went and got Ha-Seong Kim, which I think would be a really good pick because you could say, oh, Ha-Seong Kim has a really good offensive line and blah, 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 but you're not in the Heisman like that just because strictly of offensive line. You got to have some skill.
Right.
And Ha-Seong Kim at Boise State with an offensive line that I'm sure is good, but you're at Boise State. You're not getting guys from like Georgia or Alabama or even USC for that matter. So Ha-Seong Kim, I think, would be a real game changer. My only worry is, he's been such a workhorse at Boise State. Can he continue that in the NFL? I think he could. He doesn't really have any injury scares. Then second round went and got Dylan Gabriel. Slight reach. That's pick 40, and they have him projected at 53. on the big board. And then in the third round, got a guard from Alabama, Tyler Booker, and then a cornerback at pick 72, cornerback out of Kentucky, Maxwell Hairston.
I saw that the quarterback out of Ole Miss, I think his name's Jackson Dart, I think put his name in the draft. I don't know how good he is.
I don't like him. He's transferred so much, and he's been okay for Ole Miss, but I wouldn't do him.
Yeah.
You know who I wouldn't mind, who you could probably get in the third round, would be Will Howard.
Oh, yeah, I heard about
Ohio
that.
State.
Yeah, I heard
he's
about
actually been a lot better than I think people have given him credit for.
Yeah.
But you know, it's hard to get an Ohio State quarterback and not feel like a little weary of it, because Ohio State quarterbacks generally don't do well.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would more go after like Dylan Gabriel, because Oregon, they produce a lot of NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. Bo Nix,
Justin Herbert.
Yes, Herbert. I don't know why I blanked on his name. You know, Joey Arrington back in the day. Joey Arrington didn't do great in the NFL, but
Marcus Mariota. But
again. But you know what? These are NFL talented quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and
honestly,
I think
there's
Dylan Gabriel, getting him in the second round, you don't have to start him. And if you do, and it's not working out, shoot, now you have another draft to look at. Okay, maybe we need to get another quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, what's tough is like the Raiders, if they can't get into the top 5, right? And they're, let's say, floating around top 10 or maybe just outside the top 10. I don't know if that first round pick now entices somebody within the top 3 to like trade down, because all those like top 3 to 5 are either like O-line needy or quarterback needy. So like, how do you have them move out of there? But truthfully, looking at here, like Shedeur Sanders, in a more competitive conference, improved in yards, touchdown to interception ratio, and also his completion percentage. He improved it by like a whole 5%. And that is in a more competitive division. So, I mean, Shedeur Sanders is going to be a good player in the NFL. I mean, Cam Ward, you can make the argument, is a nice secondary player, but I don't like how he was kind of nonchalant in his bowl game. And I get it, it's a bowl game, but also too, like you're playing out there, at least play with a little bit of heart, I think. Yeah. But I mean, those are really the only 2 like competitive players that might make a difference on your team. And you really can't trust anybody. Dylan Gabriel is probably like a solid player because he's got the same completion percentage as Sanders. But, you know, is he going to be as good as a player as Justin Herbert or Bo Nix, even though he plays in the same school? Like, is he as good arm talent wise?
But he's athletic. He's athletic, at least.
Yeah.
And right now we're still needing a lot of offensive linemen, and I think that would be a good one.
What round do you think Jalen Milroe would fall to? Like second or third?
He was second. He was second round. Just Dylan Gabriel. I actually picked Gabriel over Milroe because he was available.
I think I would pick Gabriel over Milroe, but like if let's say we address like we get Genty first round, second round, maybe we go offensive line, because I do think like another offensive lineman would be a super benefit for us. And then maybe third round, let's say Milroe's fall into the third round, like that's a get I would be okay with. But
yeah, absolutely.
But then again, like I want to know what the combine shows, and I want to see some pro days, because to be truthful, like today, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are 1 and 2. But watch, there's going to be a dark horse quarterback that comes out of nowhere, which happens every year, because the combine they did really well, and their pro day they did really well. And we may be talking about, you know, Will Howard. Maybe we're talking about Carson Beck, even though he's injured. You know, the quarterback out of,
if we get Carson Beck, I'm going to be pissed.
Or the quarterback out of LSU, the Garrett Nesmir, I think is his name.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I don't know about him, but you know, again, who knows?
He might be okay. Yeah.
You know, and then you got, because I'm just looking right now at like the top 5 quarterbacks in college football.
I
right
actually
now.
would be okay with Quinn Ewers, because he's had to go through a lot of turmoil, and now he's finding success. And I actually wouldn't mind him.
Here's the thing, though. So he's rumored to stay in school one more year, but transfer to, I think it was Oregon was the school I thought I saw that he's rumored to transfer to if he stays one more year but gets out of Texas. Because clearly, like, Archie Manning is going to be the starting quarterback. Arch Manning, excuse me.
Archie is the
grandfather. Yeah. The guy that actually started all this lineage. But anyways, Arch Manning is essentially now Texas's quarterback forevermore. And I thought I saw that there was rumors that that Ewers was going to stay and then transfer somewhere else. So
interesting.
That could be a thought.
That actually might be I think that would be a better.
Yeah, get him one more year in a passer friendly program like Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would really help his draft stock. I mean, or maybe even get him into a team well, how do you feel about him going to like USC under what's his name? What's that coach over there at USC?
Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, over there. I mean, that would be interesting.
It would be interesting. I don't think he would. Well, I don't know, because I feel like Quinn Ewers wants to be more of a pocket passer, and a lot of these passes that Lincoln Riley has is more improviser type quarterback, and I feel like Quinn Ewers is more of a field general type quarterback, so a pocket guy. And Lincoln Riley needs a guy who kind of can run but also has an arm. Quinn Ewers can, but I don't think he wants to. I think he wants to be a better guy in the pocket. So I don't think it would be a match made in heaven. Maybe I'm wrong. That would be interesting, but I think I don't think the Trojans are going to swing big this year.
You think Oregon makes more sense if he were to stay?
Yeah. For if I'm talking about NFL prospect or to up my NFL
stock.
Yeah, there you go. That's the word. I would probably go Oregon, because Oregon has proven to kind of be a quarterback factory in a sense, where USC, they get guys drafted, but it doesn't seem like they go very far, even though this is Lincoln Riley, so it is different. But I don't know. If I were Quinn Ewers, I would probably pick Oregon over USC.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, Drew, you ready to move on to some baseball topics? So I know we haven't talked about it in a long time.
I've been begging for this. Yes.
All right. So obviously you put in the notes here, very organized about some of this stuff, and we'll just recap real quickly. Of course,
damn right.
We did have, Juan Soto signing with the Mets, which I don't know if that makes them better or not, maybe, but it's a nice grab.
It does make them better. But 15 years makes me happy that the Giants didn't get him.
I mean, also
10 years I was okay.
Didn't you say, though, that you have to find out what like the opt-out is? Because like you weren't sure like when the opt-out is in the 15 years, right?
Yeah, there's gotta be something,
way.
But I
just because how old is he now? Like 23, 24? Right? Isn't he super young?
Yeah, I think he's 24, maybe 25.
So he'll be nearing 40 basically by the time this year is over? No way.
Yeah.
So, okay. So anyways, that's a recap. So Juan Soto to the Mets. Kyle Tucker traded to the Cubs, which I actually like that a lot. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Burnes signs with the divisional opponent, with our divisional rivals, D-backs, which I did not like. It's a good get from them, but I did not like it.
No.
Torres signs with the Tigers. Okay. Teoscar Hernandez stays with the Dodgers, which of course I'm sure they deferred that money too, because why would they pay anybody up front? And a plethora of other things too. I think another good one was Max Fried to the Yankees, which is a good one. Walker Buehler to the Red Sox, which is very interesting. So Drew,
one's really cool.
That's an interesting one. So Drew, regardless so far of the free agency, and I know winter meetings was a while ago, but like, what's been the signing that you've liked the most? What are you liking, and what are you seeing going on right now in baseball?
Well, I'll just briefly touch the Juan Soto thing. It makes the Mets better. Sorry, it's shower time for my kids, and my son for some reason thinks it's playtime at that point. Anyway, Juan Soto to the Mets makes them better, and I think it's a good fit because Francisco Lindor is a guy that a lot of guys get along with. And the issue that Juan Soto has had recently, specifically with San Diego and why he left, is he really wasn't getting along with Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis. So him going to an organization like the Mets, where Francisco Lindor, it seems like a lot of people love Lindor, and I do believe that Lindor and Soto do have somewhat of a connection or are friendly with each other. I think that's a really good fit for them. However, I feel like the Mets are going all in on the next couple of years, and I'm not sure the longevity of the Mets are going to be successful. But I could be wrong. But from what I see, they're spending money elsewhere and getting rid of like a Pete, because they're not going to be able to get Pete Alonso.
No.
I know they're kind of in talks still, like they're kind of like trying to still get him, but I don't think Alonso is one of those guys who's going to be like, yeah, I'll just defer my money. So I don't think the Dodgers are going to get him either, even though the Dodgers wouldn't even go after him. They're good with Freddie Freeman.
I'm sure they're happy.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that was good for the Mets. I think it's a good fit. We'll see how well it works. Because I have seen some like other numbers of Juan Soto that kind of made me like, oh, I can kind of see, or I can kind of understand why not everyone was just willing to shell out, the Brinks trucks to Juan Soto. But Kyle Tucker being traded to the Cubs, I don't know how I like this. I like Kyle Tucker as a player, and I think he'll be fine as a Chicago Cub. But as a team overall, I'm not sure. The Cubs are kind of starting to falter more and more. I felt like they stuck with Patrick Wisdom way too long. And now Patrick Wisdom, he literally signed with a KBO team. So that's a Korean Baseball League team. So that's kind of not great. Now, good for him. I mean, because a lot of guys go there and kind of get better and then come back in the major leagues. But, that just kind of shows where Wisdom was at this time right now. Corbin Burnes going to the Diamondbacks. The Giants offered him more money. I forgot the other team that offered him more money. But due to taxes, that's why he went to Arizona. And for me, that's not a move of, I want to win.
Right.
And I know a lot of people are high on the Diamondbacks. I wasn't high on the Diamondbacks this past year. They ended up not making it. But now this year, I don't think they're even going to be better. And to me, it shows that Corbin Burnes was worried more about the money, which is fine. I'm not hating on the guy, but he's not going to a team that necessarily fits. He's going to a team that's willing to pay him money. And that's my worry about that. So I actually don't think it's a good signing. I mean, Corbin Burnes is a good pitcher, but Arizona is a good ballpark to hit in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be successful as a pitcher for years and years, San Francisco is one of those places. LA is one of those places. Where's the other place I was thinking of? I mean, Boston would be a good place. So that's just kind of my thing is I don't think this was just I'm going to a team that's going to be good.
Yeah.
Gleyber Torres going to the Tigers. It really reminds me of the Javier Baez going to the Tigers. Everyone was like, they're paying him way too much money. And I feel like that's what the Tigers are going to do here.
It's only $15 million. It's a 1-year deal.
Torres, well, still, they're paying him too much money. Torres, I felt like should have went to a team that he could stay with for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying with the Giants. Like, I do feel like the Giants would have been a good fit. Of course, I'm always going to say that. But
I think there were better options than the Tigers for sure.
I do feel like this is almost, I don't want to say career suicide, but this is not going to be great to get re-signed by another team. You actually could lose money being with the Tigers. And I think the Tigers are a good team. I'm not hating on them. But with like Javier Baez, like they still have to pay him, so they're going to have to play him. And Gleyber Torres is still young enough and good enough to play in the field. So you're going to kind of have to figure that out. So I'm a little wary of that. Teoscar Hernandez going to the Dodgers. I figured that was going to happen. It was starting to look like it wasn't. And, my in-laws were already on like, oh, well, it's okay. Hernandez, whatever. And I was like, I'm sure you're happy about that.
They're already dumping on him.
Yeah.
Hey, he wasn't that good of a player anyway.
But then they got him. Snell going to the Dodgers again. Not a big surprise. I understand the move. I just wish he would have stayed because I felt like the Giants are building something. Max Fried going to the Yankees. That was an angry signing from the Yankees. They were like, "We're not going to get Juan Soto. Fine, let's go get a dominant pitcher." Which Max Fried is good.
A good pitcher.
He's a good pitcher for 8 years. I don't know. I'm still not high on Max Fried. I think he's good. But in New York, I don't know.
And isn't he coming off of a Tommy John anyways?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
So we got to work our way back on that one.
Walker Buehler, this is the signing that, to me, has been the biggest one so far. I know Juan Soto. Everyone's going to be like, Juan Soto. Yeah, Juan Soto, of course. And I want to say Willy Adames, but we'll get to that later. But for me, the Walker Buehler going to the Red Sox, and then looking at all the other signings that the Red Sox have gone, it's been strictly pitching. I mean, basically, it's been pitching. They're really not going after the fielders because their lineup is pretty solid. Mm-hmm. But Boston went and got Patrick Sandoval from the Angels. Got a 2-year deal, two-year deal with him. Good Lord, that was hard. And then you have Walker Buehler, which is really good. And then I believe they got Aroldis Chapman, which I know Chapman is not great, but mixed in with that bullpen, I think Chapman can be successful. And then Justin Wilson, another guy who's probably a little past his prime, but could be pretty good. So they're the Red Sox, and then they got Isaiah Campbell in a minor league deal, but I can see him coming to the majors at some point. So the Red Sox said the Yankees are going after all this hitting. We're going to go after all the pitching. And yes, the Yankees did counter with, we're going to get Max Fried, but the Red Sox have been very, very particular on who they're getting. They're not signing these guys to long-term deals because they want to see how it's going to work out. I would imagine the 2-year deal that Buehler signed, I'm going to try and click on it to see if there's any. It's a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
It said 2-year deal, probably option for the second year. So I think that's a good pickup for the Red Sox. And if it doesn't work out, I hope the Giants would go after him because I really wanted the Giants to get Walker Buehler, if I'm being honest. He's a really good arm. I know he's coming off from TJ surgery, but I still think that would be a really good fit for him if you want to kind of prolong your career. So that's kind of I thought that besides the Willy Adames and Juan Soto signing, and I would probably say Kyle Tucker trade to Walker Buehler going to the Red Sox and then seeing what the Red Sox are doing, I think it's very significant. And I would, if I'm trying to get an early bet on, baseball spreads and whatnot, I would really bet on the Red Sox to potentially win the AL East because I think their team is that good.
That's interesting. So you mentioned, here's the thing about the Walker Buehler thing. I don't know if I'm that excited for it because I don't know if Walker Buehler is going to be good outside of the Dodgers organization. He reminds me of a player that needs to be within that organization to succeed. And then when you go outside of it, I don't know if he's going to be as good as he could be if he just stayed. And I don't know if the Dodgers maybe were interested in bringing him back or not. But I don't know. Something about this Walker Buehler thing just strikes me as like, I'm sure he'll be a good quality starter, and that's fine and all. I just don't know if he'll have that much success. And also, too, them picking up Patrick Sandoval. I mean, I'm a little weary of him because, he was okay with the Angels. I don't know if he's going to change anything in that rotation other than he's another starter for them when they need him. But is that going to translate to wins? I don't know. I'm a little apprehensive about that. But I do want to bring up, I know the Diamondbacks, you're not high on them, but I will say they did make some other moves. Like they traded for Naylor from the Guardians. They brought him over. They also signed Carlos Santana. They're adding some bats here, and I think them putting that with Corbin Burnes, again, may not be like a shutdown guy, but, a guy that can get you a quality start, I think. The Diamondbacks look like they're trying to get back into the postseason hunt and
no, absolutely.
Trying to compete a little bit. I do want to say, though, the Yankees are surprising me with some of the smart signings that they're doing. Paul Goldschmidt, for example, I thought that was a smart signing on their part because he's a guy at first base that plays it fundamentally well, which they did not have in the postseason. Which go back to the World Series that they lost, they needed some fundamentals there.
Very true.
He's a bat that adds to that lineup who gets on base if needed. He's a little older, but gets on base and can also go for power, which I like a lot for that rotation or for that lineup, I will say. And I think the Yankees here are trying to position themselves where they're going to be one of the leads in the AL again, as long as everything kind of comes together. And what they're doing on the field to improve that defense, I think, is going to help a little bit. So I think some of their signings, I think, are really smart considering where they came from at the end of the last season, or at least at the end of the World Series, is what I'll say. And also picking up Cody Bellinger, they traded for him from the Cubs. I think that's a pretty big pickup too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Yankees are doing okay. I don't think they're making bad moves, but like I said, you getting Cody Bellinger, the Red Sox counteroffer is getting Patrick Sandoval. That's a lefty-lefty matchup that I would actually pick Sandoval over Bellinger most of the time because Bellinger, although is a great outfielder, his bat has been okay since he's left. And kind of to touch on the whole, I'm not sure how Walker Buehler is going to do. The reason I'm so high on Walker Buehler is because this is a kid who was in the mix during the very end of the peak of Clayton Kershaw. He was still really dominant, but you were starting to kind of see some things here and there. And in the middle of that, Walker Buehler basically became the number one guy, like overnight, randomly. Right. And he was just mowing guys down.
He was the ace, yeah.
Even when he came back, he was really, really good. And so that's why I really like Walker Buehler. You're going through an organization that not only historically is always watched, it has a big fan base, but you're now also going toe-to-toe to one of the greatest, if not the greatest Dodger pitcher ever, and you surpassed him when he was still really good at what he did. To me, it's not just the Dodgers organization. That's just a really good player. Now, of course, I'm sure the Dodgers organization built him up, but for the most part, I would still take Walker Buehler any day of the week. I think he's really good. Now, maybe I'm completely way off and the Red Sox completely falter, but then he's a trade asset that you could go after. And that would be interesting to see where he goes.
On a discount.
Yeah. No, I don't want the Dodgers. No, I don't. The Dodgers aren't in this. Shut up, Cody.
All right. So moving off of other free agents, Drew, what's the Giants doing right now? I know that they signed, I'm forgetting the kid's name.
Willie Adames.
That's right. And now you were telling me earlier today that we're actually in the Pete Alonso sweepstakes. So I'm curious, what other moves would you like the Giants to do this offseason to bolster either the lineup, the starting pitching, the bullpen? What are you looking at and who are you liking?
So this is kind of why I like the Red Sox doing what they're doing, because this is what the Giants have done year after year, because the Dodgers can pay everyone. Okay? The Dodgers always get the hitters. The Dodgers always get these guys who can absolutely rake. And I'm not hating on them for that. I mean, if the Giants could do it or would do it, I would absolutely be all about it. But Willie Adames is a good player. I'm not like 1,000% sold on him, but he is a solid player. He's a good bat. Not great, but he'll do really well in San Francisco. And I think he will be a much needed dugout guy in games like against the Dodgers, Padres, all that. So he's going to be a nice counter move that the Giants have. So I really like the signing of Willie Adames. I don't think it was as great as what people want to say, but I do think it's a really good signing. It's the start of something, if that makes sense. So yeah. I kind of put it in this order because I went from pitchers all the way up to catchers, just because I was looking through all the free agents that were available this year. So starting off with the pitchers, and I didn't go in depth because I could go in depth into the relief pitchers, but I think we'll bypass that. The first guy that the Giants should sign, because not only is this guy, I believe he's 23 years old, and he's a really, really sensational pitcher, is Roki Sasaki, the kid who's coming over from Japan. This guy is a guy that the Giants need to sign, or at least cannot let the Dodgers get. And it's not necessarily that I think that honestly the Dodgers could get literally anybody. So I'm not going to say, oh, I don't think they will. And I think they have a good chance to get him. But right now the Giants can really do something if they can get him and be like, hey, we're also getting these players here as well. I think that really shows, hey, we're going to compete. And don't get fooled. The Giants are very close of being a really good team. Yes, do we need some good players? Yes, that's why we signed Willy Adames to a long-term deal. That's why we should get Roki Sasaki from Japan here. And then I would go after probably another pitcher. I put 4 other pitchers here. I put Spencer Turnbull. The only issue with him is injuries, but we've done that in the past where we went after guys like Alex Cobb or oh God, I'm blanking on the other guy's name. Anthony Descalafani. But they were really good. Those 2 pictures were really good for us. And talk about a guy who can strike out anybody at any time. He would be a really good pitcher, a really good counteroffer against the Dodgers. So that would be a good one. I would also go after like a Max Scherzer, although he is a lot older. He still is a guy who's done it, and you only have to sign him to a 1-year deal. That's kind of more right now situation. Justin Verlander, again, he's another guy that would be more of a short term, like, hey, 1 year, maybe 2 years. I mean, if he has 2 years left. But he's still a solid pitcher, both of those guys. And I think they would benefit again from being in Oracle Park. I think that would be a nice way to go out in your career, because look at Randy Johnson. Even though he wasn't fantastic as a Giant, he did end pretty amicably with the Giants and helped them get to some playoff wins as well. And then I put Jack Flaherty. You wanna say suck it to the Dodgers, get Jack Flaherty. That's all I would say, because they get Blake Snell, fine. We'll steal Flaherty and we'll call it a draw. And you can sign him to a long-term deal, which shows Sasaki, okay, we're in it for the long haul. Not only do you have Logan Webb, you have Sasaki, and then you get Jack Flaherty. Those are 3 really good pictures right away. And then just bats that I think the Giants should go after. I would still go after JD Martinez as a DH hitter. He's not going to be anything else. He's not going to be an outfielder. He can play outfield if you absolutely need him to. Maybe first base here and there. But JD Martinez is still a really good bat. And again, he's a former Dodger, where he's got some inside knowledge. That would be nice. Alex Bregman. I put him on here. I didn't think I would, but Alex Bregman actually played shortstop in college. That's what he was coming into the majors. And so what you can do is there was already been talks of maybe move Adames to second base. And then if you sign Bregman, you already have Chapman at third base, who's solid. He's the better third baseman out of him and Bregman. So if you sign Bregman, you can move him at shortstop. He's not going to be the best shortstop, but he's a bat that you now have. Now you have Adames, you have Chapman, and you have Bregman. That's a good 1-2-3 punch right there. Or you go this route. You go Ha-Seong Kim, who you can still put at shortstop or even second base at this point, and you have a pretty solid infield just right there. And you still have a lot of money left over for the guy that you're probably going to have to overpay, because now the market has kind of you've let it go too long, and this is a guy that would really help out with what the Giants have needed for a long time, which is power, and that would be a guy named Pete Alonso. You want to go after a guy named Pete Alonso. I know we had a discussion before, and I was like, I wouldn't go after him, but at this point, I thought we would have a better shot at Paul Goldschmidt. I'm actually surprised that Goldschmidt went so quick, if I'm being perfectly honest. I didn't see that happening. But I think I think Pete Alonso is a guy that can really help the Giants. Is he the best first baseman? No. But we kind of went through a lot of first basemen this year, if we're being honest. And we need a guy who's going to be there for the long haul. You already, like I said, you have Willie Adames, you have Matt Chapman. Those are two good players. Patrick Bailey you can throw in there who's got some pop here and there. Luis Matos is showing that he's got some pop. Elliot Ramos, who had a career year this past year. So you have guys who are good, but you put Pete Alonso in there, and now your lineup is set. Even if we're just talking about Adames, Chapman, and Alonso, that's three really good hitters that not only can you compete offensively, but you still have plenty of money to get a Roki Sasaki. You still have money to get a Spencer Turnbull or Scherzer or Verlander or even Flaherty. You have extra money to do that. And that's why I was saying maybe go the route of Ha-Seong Kim to get that second base solidified because we lost Estrada to the Rockies. And now you have a good second baseman who's got some pop and is staying in division. So he's going to know a thing or two about these division opponents. So you're not having to worry about, is it going to be a learning curve? Nope, you're ready. You're set. Like we said, we have Adames and then Chapman. That's a really good infield. And then you bolster it by getting some of these offensive or some of these pitchers. I think this is a really good team that can happen. But they're going to have to get some pieces. And I think Pete Alonso now you're going to have to get.
Yeah, I like the Alex Bregman thing. Don't get me wrong. And moving him over to shortstop would be great. But then, we have Tyler Fitzgerald, who's shortstop already. Luciano already at shortstop. I think Casey Smith did shortstop for a little bit. Yeah. So, we have a lot of we have a crowded infield. But I think the Pete Alonso one, we need power. So I would go after that. And then Ha-Seong Kim, I like him. I think him being able to go all over the infield is super beneficial, and his bat. So I would pay handsomely for him to get him on the team.
Yeah.
And another player that I actually, if we couldn't get Flaherty or Turnbull, I would go after Max Scherzer on a 1 to 2 year deal, probably a 2 year with a player option, because I actually like how young our pitching is with Birdsong and Harrison, excuse me. And I really like having Max Scherzer there to kind of bring them up and to give them some tools and really help mentor them. I think that'd be super beneficial. Even if we didn't get really any other pitcher, I think getting Scherzer alone would help a lot. And like what you said about the whole Randy Johnson thing, he helped us win some playoff games here and there when we had him on the team. I really think Scherzer being on the Giants, it's a pitcher-friendly ballpark, so it works in his benefit. You help bring his buddy over, Pete Alonso, which they're all good about that. And I think it just helps the next generation of pitchers. And the Giants remain young enough to where we can keep this momentum for the next 5-6 years and continue to bring in other free agents. Like having a big name like Scherzer put his stamp of approval on the Giants would be huge for the future free agencies that know that Scherzer is a guy that day in, day out is the best pitcher, and he's helped win championships for, I think he won the World Series for the Nationals, if I'm not mistaken. And then he also helped the Rangers win a World Series. So having that experience and having that Nomer for the Giants is huge, and it would help sell tickets. Cause as I've always said, you need to bring fans to the ballpark to get this team excited. You're not going to do it with these no-namers, and no offense, unless you're in the Giants, that's the only way you know them. But you need a big name like a Scherzer, Alonso, even a Verlander, even though he may not have enough left in the tank. But you need somebody like that to draw in the attraction.
Yes.
And it's also going to help bring in other free agents. So that's what I would say too.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, the big one is Sasaki needs to be signed. If you're the Giants, you need to sign him because he's 23 years old. If he's as good as he seems like he is, then you can tie him down for a long time, and you're going to have his peak for a while.
Yeah.
Whereas you go after Max Scherzer, you're only signing him to a 1-year deal. But it's not going to be as much money. And shoot, if the Dodgers have taught anybody anything, you can defer that money if you need to.
Yeah.
So
Who's that outfielder we signed last year from Japan? The one that's injured. The one that was injured last year.
Ho-Lee. I can't think. I'm blanking on his first name. Jung-Ho Lee. Jung-Ho Lee.
He's not even in the lineup yet, and he was known as a good hitter. So,
well, he was. Yeah, he was really good. Yeah.
So getting him back in the lineup would help facilitate.
Yeah, he's going to be. He's a great leadoff hitter, and then you can throw Adames at number 2. You throw Alonso at 3 or 4, whichever one you want to put him at, and then you got your pitching. I mean, that's all you. Yes, you want to have 1 through 9 be great, but you have 1 through 4 really solid, like that. That's going to benefit the Giants just already,
right?
Because we really didn't have 1 through 4. It was like, if we get to 3 or 4, then yeah, we're great.
Right.
You know?
The fact that there's an identity with the Giants, kind of with what they want to do with the lineup, it doesn't feel like we're playing small ball anymore. We're actually trying to be a little bit more like some power here, then we can get an on-base guy, and we have some pitching to back up on that defense. So it feels like there's actually some direction where, with the last guy we had, Farhans, it didn't seem like we had an identity. We were just signing guys here. Oh, he's an okay player, or we got this going on, and it's not really a direction of like success. It's like just enough to be intriguing, but not bad enough to be mediocre.
Yeah. Yep. So a lot that the Giants can do. Hopefully, the ones I really want to get is Sasaki, Flaherty, and Alonso. Those are the 3 that I hope we can, and we have the money to get them. Don't get that twisted. We have the money to get them. We just have to sign them.
If we can land all 3 of those, we would be competitive. That would be really, really good.
And if we had to pick 2 of the 3, I would go Sasaki and Alonso.
Yeah,
because not only are we're pretty good with our pitching, but Sasaki is young, so he's only going to get better. And then you look at Alonso, who's going to help a powerless team. Obviously, getting Adames and Chapman is obviously helpful, but then adding Alonso to that, now you're a team that you have to be worried about.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Man, a lot of information, and we haven't even hit spring training yet. This is great.
I know. And sorry about the 20-minute, hey, how are you doing?
No, it's kind of got a little 2 bays and a pod flare. I mean,
no.
Haven't done that in a minute, and I wanted to ask you about if you had any New Year's resolutions, which probably don't. And don't.
No, I haven't even thought of it.
See, there you go. But anyways, I think we're gonna land the plane now, Drew. So thank you everyone for listening. Please subscribe on YouTube if you're watching. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok while it's still around. We're on Threads, Facebook, all the other social media platforms. So you can find us on there. You can listen to us audio form on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on iHeart as well. We're all over the place. Drew, I know it's been a minute since you've done Stingers Up. Is there an episode coming out in the near future? Do you want to give us a Stingers Up update with how?
I probably will. The reason why it was so hard to get the Stingers Up is we, at least specifically the varsity team, was in 3 different tournaments.
Oh.
And so we had 3 straight weeks where we're in 3 different tournaments. So we had the what was the first tournament? Oh my God, I'm totally blanking. We had Dinuba. They're in the West Coast Jamboree tournament right now, which is basically San Francisco area.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other tournament? The Golden West tournament as well, which is in Visalia. So we had a Visalia tournament, Dinuba tournament, and then they're in the West Coast Jamboree, which I didn't go to the West Coast Jamboree, which good and bad. Like, it would have been nice to go and help out, but it also was kind of a nice break. But even still, I'm still getting text messages from Coach Campbell like, "Hey, can you do stats on this game?" I wasn't able to get on. I got it. Which is fine. I don't mind doing it, but it's just, that's it is kind of a nice break, and also I haven't really had time with the Frosh team because we had finals week, so they gave them the whole week off for that because we had a couple of girls who had to do well, and so we just, as a coaches, we were like, you know what, let's give them that week to really focus on school and all that. And then obviously Christmas, and they were doing the West Coast Jamboree, so we just said we're going to give them that week, and then we'll come back. So we finally had to practice today. Which actually was okay, and we had a couple of the JV girls because their practice got canceled, so they came out and they practiced with us, which was great. It was really good to see because I kind of half expected that there wasn't going to be that many girls, but surprisingly we had 9 girls out there, so that was really good.
Cool.
And we got a lot of work in, and I felt bad because I try to run them a little bit more than I usually do because coming back, like, we got to get back in shape quick, and but they handled it well. So shout out to all those 9 girls because I was very impressed that everyone came out and everyone was focused but having a good time, and that's all I told them. I told them afterwards. I said, if you girls are laughing on the sideline, but when you're in the thick of things and you're focused and you know what you're doing, I'm good with it. And they were like, all right, cool. So
really cool. Well, yeah, I feel bad because I'll post stuff like videos or reels or stories or whatever. And 9 out of 10 times, like, a majority of the people viewing it are Sanger West, like, students, like ones that maybe like on the football team, basketball team or whatever. And I'm like, I think they're waiting for Drew, but I'm sure they didn't follow me specifically. I'm sure it's because of you. So, but anyways, hopefully in the near future you got some more Stingers Up content coming out for them. So everyone's on a vacay, so no worries. But
yes,
anyways, we thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys on the next episode. Who knows, it might actually be later on this week if schedules and everything permits, so we'll see. But until then, hit the notifications and get notified as soon as we come out with a new episode, so that way you don't miss it. But anyways, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Be kind to one another, and we will see you.
Catch you on the flip side.